but it's just a frog chair. Welcome back to A Few Bits of News. I'm TV Sliver, and today we're going over a few bits of news from the gaming industry and adjacent areas over the past week. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like and get subscribed below. It really does help the channel and means you won't miss anything new in the future. Now let's get to the news. 2 weeks ago, Destiny 2 developers Bungie detailed more information on the upcoming release of their next expansion, Witch Queen, or instead more about what they will be removing from the game, their first paid expansion to the game, Forsaken. Similar to last year when Bungie first announced the Vault system, in which they removed the base game to Destiny 2 and the first 2 DLC packs of Warmind and Curse of Osiris, the reasons to remove Forsaken is to allow them breathing room for their next batch of content going forward. Citing since the system got implemented, the newer content has had better response time in UI and improved loading and patching times. Not all content from the Forsaken expansion is being removed. Along with the expected last expansion Beyond Light's year of seasonal content, only the Forsaken campaign and the Tangled Shore area will be vaulted. The Dreaming City area, the Last Wish raid, the Shattered Throne dungeon, and the 2 strikes, Proving Grounds and Warden of Nothing, will remain in the game, along with last year's activity Battlegrounds. For those wanting to play the Forsaken campaign and haven't purchased the expansion yet, Krem says hold off, as that content will be going free from December 7th until the Witch Queen's release on February 22nd. At the same time, the remaining content from Forsaken will be converted into a content pack, similar to the Bungie 30th anniversary pack we have covered previously during a Bungie's last reveal event. Those that already own Forsaken will have the pack added for free. The actual price for non-owners is yet to be stated, although Krem suspects it's going to be around the same price as the other pack. Of course, this has split the opinions of players yet again. Like last time, people are stating they have been robbed of the content they've actually paid for, which will no longer be available, whereas others have mildly understood Bungie's approach, although they're still not 100% happy, reminding people that Destiny is a live service title, and much like the seasonal content, the game will constantly be changing up content all the time. The game is also harder to recommend, due to the limited life of said content being now apparent. Destiny is also known for being bad at explaining its story anyway to newer players, despite this year being the best it's ever been. Frustration is high right now, but Bungie had a trump card to play this past week as it's part of the Festival of the Lost content drop, Dinosaur Armor! The event ends November 2nd. It's also worth noting Destiny 2 is now on Game Pass for PC, including its DLC expansions. All of it for free. Be back in a second. Good Old Games, now rebranded as GOG.com, has always had the selling point of their games being DRM free. Well, that's been put to the test recently when they added IO Interactive's rebooted Hitman Game of the Year version to its service. Turns out this Hitman has an online verification system. Those wanting to play offline, despite having access to the story mode and bonus missions, were locked out of its escalation missions, elusive targets, and user-created contracts. Furthering that, online is required to unlock new equipment, starting locations, get mission scores, and level up your location mastery. As this game isn't advertised as an online game, those purchasing the game found the online requirement for content was against the nature of the DRM-free advertising the site is known for. After a small back and forth between those displeased and the site reps, requesting not to review bomb and just refund the game instead, GOG have removed the game from the platform completely, and they posted the following on their forums. Thank you for your patience and for giving us the time to investigate the release of Hitman Game of the Year on GOG. As promised, we're getting back to you with the updates. We're still in dialogue with IO Interactive about this release. Today we have removed Hitman Game of the Year from GOG's catalogue. We shouldn't have released it in its current form, as you've pointed out. We'd like to apologise for the confusion and anger generated by this situation. We've let you down, and we'd like to thank you for bringing this topic to us. While it was honest to the bone, it shows how passionate you are towards GOG. Let's hope everything goes well for GOG, as it's going to be interesting going forward with more and more games requiring online connections for their basic features. 2 weeks ago, we covered Amazon's MMO New World's success in being vastly popular to the point they couldn't keep up with the player base ballooning to hour-long queues and servers beginning full. One of the things covered was the fact they stated that not to worry about your server choices as free transfers will be offered in a few weeks, Well, anyone wanting those transfers, sorry, that's been delayed. On their official forum, they wrote, "During our testing, we uncovered some edge cases where the transfer experience does not meet our standards for its release. This means that we will be taking some extra time to get those issues resolved before we feel comfortable giving everyone their free server transfer token." It would seem that is fair enough. However, that's not the part of the story that's brought the player base's wrath onto Amazon, as delays happen all the time in gaming. The forum post details how the transfer system would work, and also its limitations. From the wording of the post itself, it seems transfers are set to be within the same server region only. This is not what was said a few weeks ago during Amazon's request for everyone to pick other servers to use during the server populations issues. When directly asked if players could move, for example, to EU from US, the answer stated was yes, as you can see from the tweet here. Needless to say, players are not happy about this, as some picked another region to be able to play at non-peak hours for that server, and avoid queuing and expected to move to a family or friends server once things have died down and the transfers were open. This frustrates people as it's Amazon hosting said servers, so believe region hopping shouldn't be much of an issue. More so when other titles like Guild Wars 2 offer the option for a fee, and Final Fantasy XIV is planning to implement their own global world visit system in a few months for free. Oh, and to add more fuel to the fire, Amazon confirmed on Friday the transfers were going to be available, but now have decided to actually delay it until this week, citing that if they were to do it this past week, it would disrupt play because of the server balancing, wars being cancelled, and the downtime the game would have. Considering MMOs are active 24/7 worldwide, when is the right time to do it? Don't worry, we'll be getting several communications in the near future with more specific details on how the system will roll out, and a deep dive into the lessons they've learned in the past couple of weeks. Let's hope clear communication is one of them, partly because of what we cover next. This is not the only issue New World is facing right now, as reports across Reddit and their own forums of players abusing the banning system to disconnect opposing factions during PvP, something that Amazon flat out have said is not the case. However, the moderation team seems to be in some confusion if the system actually exists, as shown here and here. Adding to the mess, it seems like bots have been plaguing the system, gathering up the resource nodes, which are single use across the server, continually and disrupting the in-game market. On the forums, Amazon reiterated the only legitimate sources for game keys are from Amazon's website or Steam, and currently is in the works of removing thousands of fraudulent keys from the game. Well, at least the population issues may be helped by that, at least. We'll keep you updated on this chaos going forward. Well, it's yet again that time for Path of Exile players as another league approaches, and oh boy, Grinding Gear Games have done it yet again by making some deep changes to the game's core systems. First, let's get into the league, Scourge. At the start of the league, you are given something which is called the Blood Crucible. As you travel Rayclast, the Blood Crucible fills, and once filled, allows you to travel to an alternate version of Rayclast inhabited by the Scourge. Why would you go there? For loot, of course. Adding an item to the Blood Crucible allows the item to gain power when killing the Scourge, corrupting it, allowing for more powerful items than you would normally get at your current level. Finally, the Blood Crucible itself can level and has been given its own passive system, customizing the way it's used and the rewards to your liking. Getting to the bigger changes in this patch, the endgame Atlas, in preparation for a massive overhaul early next year, has halved its regions to 4, and the map amount has been reduced to around 100. This has been done to decrease the grind of the overall endgame, reducing the number of watchstones required to 16 from 32, but to counter this, the region's passive trees have been increased in size, while getting rid of some less used passives in the process. Those wanting more challenges will find uber versions of Blight, Breach, Delirium and Legion at endgame, whereas Delve has been revamped to be more challenging but more rewarding early on, adding more occasions bosses will appear. Also, Delve's catch-up system has been tuned, so for example level 90 characters will get tier 13 maps as drops straight away, allowing Delve to be skipped until that point if players wish to do that. The main passive system had some large changes too, as the team looked at the niche stats on the tree and felt either some weren't important to characters or distracted from what the passive skill was trying to do. They also considered those trying to build around those niche stats were constrained in their choices due to the stat locations. Those niches have been placed in a new system within the tree, Passive Mastery. When reaching a notable passive on the tree, unlocks one of these mastery nodes. You then select a passive from the mastery list, locking that in, and if you unlock a similar passive mastery, you will see the remaining choices to add to your already locked in list. This, the team states, solves the problem of removing the niches from the tree, allowing for more focused passive power and yet still allow those niche builds to exist. The team also insisted that older players' muscle memory of the tree would not be impacted as much, as they tried to keep the new tree as close to the previous incarnation as possible. Other changes to the game are new skill gems, including the game's first co-op gems, allowing you to share your gem skill with another player, but at the risk of if they die, you also die. Last season's expedition system got folded into the core game, retiring Parandus from the game. Currency items now will drop less often, but will now stack instead, reducing clicks. And finally, guilds get their own hideouts, that's player housing, and improvements to guild banking comes along with it, much to the joy of a certain streamer. The Scourge League drops later this week, Friday 22nd. For more information on this update, go check the video link we've put in the description. The battle between the California Department of Fair Employment and Housing, DFEH, and the Federal Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, or EEOC, with ActiBlizz stuck in the middle, continued this week with an update. If you remember from last week, linked on screen if you missed the coverage, the investigations made an interesting turn. Activision Blizzard reached a settlement with the EEOC, only for it to be immediately blocked by the DFEH. We'll go into it more in depth, but after this most recent update, looks like the DFEH is taking the L on this one. Filed on October 8th, the EEOC struck back against the DFEH with an opposition. Yes, that's right, that's an opposition of an opposition, and boy is this one spicy. As it turns out, two of the lead attorneys working on behalf of the DFEH are previous employees of the EEOC, and worked on the Commission's case against Activision Blizzard. These employees allegedly did not receive prior permission from the EEOC to get re-involved with the Activision Blizzard case under another organization's employment. This is in direct violation of the California Rules of Professional Conduct, which explicitly prohibits former government employees from representing a client in connection with a matter in which the lawyer personally participated without prior written consent. In layman's terms, the two lawyers allegedly got themselves involved with the DFEH case without getting permission from the EEOC, and may have used confidential information gathered during their past work in order to expedite the DFEH's objection. After being informed of this conflict, the DFEH retained new counsel, but still managed to file their objection mere hours later. Wowhead summed this up best by saying, "This conflict of interest could represent a much bigger problem for the DFEH than the EEOC settlement, as it could be considered a violation of professional ethics, a potential breach of confidentiality, and could even result in the entire California suit being compromised. At time of writing, it doesn't appear that either organisation has reached a resolution. Until then, we'll keep eye out on the case." Moving on to some Nintendo-based news, the company dropped a Nintendo Direct last Friday, streamed directly onto their official YouTube channel. The Direct covered Animal Crossing New Horizon, as well as the announcement of the New Horizons Happy Home Paradise paid DLC. At just over 23 minutes long, there is a lot to cover. The Direct started by announcing the release date. The Animal Crossing New Horizons free update is scheduled for release on November 5th. This marks the last major free content update being offered. Inside the upcoming update is a slew of both new and old features from past games. First seen in Animal Crossing Wild World, Brewster and his coffee shop, The Roost, return to the museum, and this time he's offering more than just a good cup of joe. The coffee shop functions as a meeting place for both player characters and NPCs alike. The player can, for the first time, invite characters to visit using amiibo support, and those invited even have a chance to bring along friends. Speaking of friends, another familiar face returns to the Animal Crossing world. Say hello to Captain, the boat-driving kappa, or turtle depending on your game version. That's been a transportation staple since the very beginning. The Direct confirms his return. Captain ferries the player character to new mysterious islands where they can collect new flora and experience time differences, including different times of day and different seasons than what is normally happening in the player's island. Players can also be ferried to Harv's Island, the location of his photography studio and soon-to-be-built Shop Plaza. The plaza, once built, will welcome familiar faces such as Sahara, Kix, Red, Cyrus and Reese, Katrina, Tortimer and Leaf. Cyrus and Reese's furniture shop offers a new feature. Shown off in the Direct with the Lighthouse, the game's ready-made furniture items can finally be customized with multiple colour options. Note though, the colour options were set, so there's a limited selection available for colours per item. Also added to the plaza were new player hairstyles. Later in the Direct, they revealed a total of 11 new ones coming in this update. Next up in the Direct were new features that got the player involved with their island's community. Players can now join in with the group stretching exercises located outside of the town hall using either button or motion controls. Want something more one-on-one with your favourite villager? Added in this update, the player can be invited inside their home or vice versa. You can be rearranging your furniture and a resident pops in uninvited. Not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing though. New features can be found inside the town hall too. Town ordinances that impact the active town of all NPCs within the town, shown on screen now, an expanded storage system, doubled up to 5,000, and exterior home updates through Tom Nook's construction service. More items were also added to the Nook Miles system as well. Probably one of the biggest updates out of this Direct that has fans raving is the new cooking and farming system. Players gain access to DIY recipes from their in-game phone that make having a kitchen in-home actually worthwhile. Dishes prepared become items that can be used as decorations or consumed. Additional features within this update will show them on screen for you, including ceiling decor and lighting, the ability to set multiple wallpapers in the same room, 2 additional bridge and incline slots, permanent cliff ladders, 9 new fence types, 11 new reaction expressions, 2 new camera modes, the ability to use patterns in different ways, like on clothing, ceilings and walls, new interactable items like the storage shed, music box and ATM, new furniture items overall within Nook's Cranny, and for the new players, an Island Life 101 service that offers tips on how to get started. KK Slider's repertoire also got an update here with 11 new songs. Yet another fan favourite feature lacking from New Horizons but added in this game update were the gyroids, weird little wooden statues that would jive and sing along with the music played inside the character's home. Unlike past titles, in New Horizons the player must plant and water fragments of the gyroid, then go back to the next day to collect it once fully grown. Like the game's furniture in this expansion, every gyroid can have their colour customised to better suit the player's style. And that's it for the Animal Crossing free update. Let's take a look at the paid DLC. Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home Paradise, that's quite a mouthful, was announced with a new feature that allows the player character to go to work. Located on an island archipelago, this job whisks the player off to assist the Paradise Planning Company in creating stylish, themed vacation homes for NPCs. Pick one of the unique islands and start designing based on clues given by the NPCs, such as, I want to relax in a forest surrounded by mushrooms. Have a favourite character and want to design their vacation home? This DLC is amiibo compatible, and by using their card, specific villagers can be invited instantly. This DLC features several new building options, which makes sense considering the overall theme. When designing the interior, the player now has various options for room size, counter height and for kitchens and bathrooms, soundscapes, changeable lighting colours and intensity, and the ability to place down partition walls and pillars. Special effects have even been added to certain furniture pieces, unlocked by pulling out a rag and polishing them to perfection. The best part? Take everything you've learned and apply it to your main island. Once a job is completed, the player is paid in a new currency, Poki, which can be spent in the main island to buy special hard-to-obtain furniture pieces for sale in the main office. All homes designed in this DLC can be remodelled, giving the player the opportunity to use newly unlocked items and repeat the requests indefinitely. The player also has the ability to construct buildings such as schools, restaurants and hospitals that actually get used by NPCs. Players can snap photos of everything they design and share them online using the Happy Home network, as well as tour spaces designed by others. This DLC becomes available on November 5th for $24.99 US. Pre-orders start on October 29th on the Nintendo eShop. Or you could just not pay for the Animal Crossing DLC at all, because Nintendo happened to slip more details of its online membership expansion pack at the end of its Direct. If you happen to buy into the expansion pack version, Nintendo will bundle in Animal Crossing New Horizons Happy Home Paradise for free. This is including the N64 and Genesis Mega Drive titles. Seems like this Nintendo version of Microsoft's Xbox Game Pass, as the DLC will only be accessible as long as you keep the subscription going. It did bring up the question on what would happen to the content if you stopped paying for the service. Nintendo followed this up with the press after the Direct, saying as the DLC is separate from the main island, only the new island itself will be closed off to players. Players can continue to use the items earned from the DLC on their main island. Now for the main question with all that included: how much the online expansion pack will be. It's a little steep at $50 a year for individual plans or $80 for a family plan. This is more than double the current price of $20 a year for the individual plan, and we have yet to see if this is the only price option available, or like the original plan, you can pay by month or every 3 months as well. The online expansion pack service goes live next week, so we'll have more details soon. Let's end on a happy note. Final Fantasy XIV had its media tour last week for its Endwalker expansion, where the press went about detailing the job changes, locations, and took a tour of one of Endwalker dungeons. No spoilers here, but the press seemed impressed. More so when everyone learned, as reported by IGN, that the game not only has had 24 million players walked through its doors, Krem says that's a bump of 2 million since the summer when it was last reported, but Final Fantasy XIV is now the most profitable game in the Final Fantasy series overall. No surprise when the head of game Naoki Yoshida, along with his translator Ayumi Tokutake in certain videos, sat down to talk to every media outlet and personality that had put time into covering the game previously. With very little off the table to talk about, from Lalafells on shoulders to do devs even play their own game? Krem lost count on how many times he popped up with someone to talk about things, but it's been said at least 32 interviews Yoshida sat down for an hour with each person. Yoshida really just loves to sit down and have a chat. Well, let's be honest, with the work he and his team have put in for 11 years, it's basically a break for him. One last minute update, as Apex Legends has managed to break itself again. In a tweet, Respawn stated not to emote in the game as it crashes out the game. A fix is due this week, so try not to give your team a thumbs up until then. And now on to this week's releases. Starting on October 19th, we have Into the Pit. Remember Hexen and Heretic? Well, turn it into a roguelike and neon colours, then Into the Pit is your game. Due out on PC and Xbox One. We also have Inscryption. From the maker of Pony Island and The Hex comes a roguelike card game where nothing is quite what it seems. Out on PC. On October 22nd, we have My Friend Peppa Pig. There's a Peppa Pig game out on all platforms called My Friend Peppa Pig. That's all it needs saying. We also have The Dark Pictures, The House of Ashes. The Dark Pictures anthology continues with The House of Ashes. This interactive horror drama puts you in the shoes of 5 characters who are trapped under an underground Mesopotamian temple during the 2003 Iraq War. Who should you kill? Who should you trust? As the awoken monsters close in. Coming out on Xbox, PlayStation and PC platforms. And that's it for this week's A Few Bits of News. Tune in next Monday for more news across the gaming industry, and as always, don't forget to like, comment and subscribe, as well as hit that bell to get notified of the next video. If you'd like to chat with us live, then come join me every Tuesday, Wednesday and Friday evening over on Twitch, link in the description. Otherwise, we'll see you below in the comments.